You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the June 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with a presentation by Ron Fournier on a helicopter tour operation. Under new business, committee will receive a community safety update with focus on the RCMP's quarterly report and proper disposal of household hazardous waste. Councillor Heislip will provide an update on the world's oldest basketball court. Councillor Rodas and Deputy Mayor Wheaton will provide a healthcare update with a proposed amendment to the medical professional recruitment policy. Committee will review correspondence regarding concerns about the condition of public clothing donation bins. Finally, committee will review drafts of the Downtown Facade Improvement Program, Public Engagement and Communication Plan, and the proposed new Communications Officer position for 2026. Now let's join committee in the Moosehead Room at the Garceland Civic Center in St. Stephen.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Call to order. I just recognize that Councillor Cornish is going to be with us later this evening. He's attending a meeting upstairs for the St. Croix River, which is another important meeting going on in our community. So, and I'm sure he'll do good work because he's very passionate about the river system. So we'll hear from him later on what's going on upstairs there in the Garceland. Okay, before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on ancestral unceded territory of the Facade people. Thank you. And I'll have a mover and seconder for the agenda of the Committee of the Whole meeting of June 11th, 2025 be approved. So moved. Councillor Harding, Councillor Heislip, holy jump. It's been so long since I've seen you. Sorry about that. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Okay. I'll take a mover and second for the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held May 7th, 2025 be approved as presented. So moved. Deputy Mayor Wheaton. Second. Councillor Greenlaw. Questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion approved. Okay. We got a presentation by Ron Fournier. The helicopter tour operation. The floor is yours, sir.
Got some cards for you guys. Okay. There's so much to say in so little time, so I'm going to pre-see a lot of it. Basically, I want to thank the town of St. Stephen's for keeping the airport the way it is, because you guys have a very special thing there. It's only 1 nautical mile from downtown. It's a very rare thing. Most airports are so far away from town, you got to pay $50 for a taxi to get anywhere. So pilots would actually love this place. Basically, yeah, we're starting a helicopter tour company, and our business plan involves quite a few passengers. It's a 5,000 passenger business plan. So there'd be a lot of spin-offs from it. We do have Transport Canada approval to build a heliport on our Bayside property. If we decide to do that, unfortunately, most of the spin-off will go to, we all know where, St. Andrews, of course. The obvious choice to have a helicopter thing is obviously at an airport. The one thing that surprised me about the airport, when we first moved here, we've been here for 3 years now, and we've invested about $2 million in Charlotte County so far. The one thing that surprised me is I didn't realize how much the airport was being used till I set up my hangar in Wawig, and then we set up our base radio. So we hear all the pilots coming in and out of here. And it's surprising how many Irving aircraft come in, a ton of PC-12s, King Airs. There's a 505 helicopter, and I have a little dinky fuel trailer that I had to buy because St. Stephen's doesn't have jet fuel, which is what all modern aircraft pretty much use. So we go to Fredericton and get our fuel, and we've had 3 call-outs already where people were stuck at St. Stephen's and didn't want to fly into St. John or Fredericton. So we came and fueled them up. I don't sell fuel. My fuel's cost prohibitive because I have to go get it in Fredericton. But there's a lot of action. And just to give you guys an idea, I'm not going to name names because they prefer not, but we had 3 famous people stay at our cottages, including one F1 driver that just left here not too long ago, that they had no idea they were here. I can tell you that my helicopter, we picked them up, they flew their plane into Fredericton, and we picked them up with the helicopter and brought them back. And I can't tell you what they bought, but I can tell you they were 490 pounds heavier when they left. So it's either food or presents or clothes or something. So they spent money in the area. And we had 2 other famous people, one where their aircraft was actually stationed here at St. Stephen's, and the other one was in St. John. We ferried them over. So, the RCMP has been in contact with me quite a few times for fuel because they'd like to get fuel. So I know that there's a lot of things going around about the airport, and I would like it to become a small operation like an executive airport, and I think the RSC should be involved because out of all the aircraft that have landed there, I cannot tell you where they all went, but I can tell you the majority of them were for St. Andrew's business. So I don't think St. George gets much on the radio calls, and it just boggles me. I think if we had an FBO, a high-end FBO, which would be very economically feasible with what you have, it would just involve a nice building instead of the shack there with real washrooms and a couch and stuff. I think, and the important thing is jet fuel. If you guys had jet fuel, there'd be so many. I brought my 4 flight here, but you guys won't understand, but you guys have been blessed with a location right by the States. You have a long enough runway as it is for an executive airport. So King Airs, PC-12s. So it's like the rich, aviation has always been a rich man's game and a poor man's business. Airports never make money. You guys have to view an airport as infrastructure. You pave a road, you don't plan on making money with that road. It's a spin-off of the road that makes the money. And the airport's the same way. The only thing is the airport's at the precipice where there's no jet fuel, and 100 LL is slowly getting phased out. So if you guys want the high-end clientele, you need the jet fuel, and it's actually a pretty cheap investment. If you got a jet fuel tank and a nice shack, you'd be in for pretty low, and you guys need to get an operator in there that actually knows airports. Because right now, I'm actually scared to fly my helicopter too close to the hangars because most of them, the roofs are unsecure, and some of them you actually think you're going to knock over. So you guys, I know it's a terrible thing to say, but you have to decide whether you want it to be an airport or not be an airport. And I think it just involves those people that have the hangars getting a letter or something saying you got to maintain your stuff, if you want to be here. What I'm proposing now, and this is going to be tons and tons of meetings. Right now I'm set up okay. I have my hangar in Wallweg that my helicopter can sleep in, so I'm not worried about hangar space right now. I would like to conduct some or most of my tours from St. Stephen and Bayside. The problem with St. Stephen's is you're the furthest away from where people want to be. You're still close to town, but it's an extra 3 minutes. And just to give you an idea, my helicopter costs, it's right around $1,800 an hour to run. So if you do the math, you can figure out what a minute is worth. And so, yeah, so the extra 3 minutes is not detrimental, but it's not pleasant. So my proposition would be if you guys were willing to get the FBO and the jet fuel, we'd be willing, because I have a full-time person that has to load and unload the helicopter all the time. So we could actually monitor Unicom, which would make you a real airport again. And there's a ton of funding available for the rural airport development funds. They're grants, but you got to have a minimum of 2,500 passengers to qualify for these grants. So if you guys view it as strictly infrastructure, it's never going to be a moneymaker, even if we have an FBO there, but it should be able to break even, because whenever an airport makes money, unfortunately, there's always something that needs to be done. You pave a new runway, the very next day it's depreciating again. So it's not a money-making adventure, but I think that if we work together, and we might even be able to get another operator, because Campobello and, Graham and Ann and Winter without the ferry service, I think if someone had a small 6-passenger, like a Bonanza or something like that, they could actually have a ferry service between here and there, and people would actually pay because you're so close and you guys have such parking. Just so you know my background, I've done this with 2 airports before in Alberta. We've taken airports, small municipal airports that were down. The problem with this one is you guys have no land. The one we did in Fort Macleod had 160 acres, and we developed it into an air park where people built $1 million homes and paved a little driveway to the runway, and they had their own little, you guys don't have that. You guys just don't have the land. But I think if you went with the executive port, it would actually, I'm not gonna say it's gonna make millions, it's not even gonna make thousands, but it should perhaps pay for itself, at least a very small deficit. And the RCMP also, they're interested in bringing their helicopters to Black Hawks. They are interested in bringing their, and we're at the end of the line for this US border stuff, so we're a natural refueling point for them. And I know their helicopter burns about 1,600 liters an hour. So you think of it, they're gonna be burning probably 8,000 to 9,000 gallons a month. And right now they're filling in Fredericton, and they don't like that. So, and you guys also were blessed with, I don't know how you managed it, I think the airport was a big thing back in the day, because you have your own government weather station, which is so weird because most of these small little community airports, you have no idea where the winds come from. You actually have to overfly the airport, look at the windsock and say, okay, now I can land. Your weather station actually gives us all the information, so we can land directly. We don't have to do any patterns or anything. So that's a, I still don't quite comprehend how you guys got that, but you do. The other thing we noticed is the location. The nearest airport for jet fuel is Fredericton or St. John. And a lot of people, all the VOR pathways, all the GPS pathways, everything for commercial traffic actually tends to come right over you. So the jet fuel, it's a chicken and egg scenario, of course, and I know how the government works. I worked for the government 15 years in Alberta. You know, you want to see the revenue before you see that one has to happen before the other. So if you're going to progress into the future, you need jet fuel, or you can just say, we don't want to progress and just let it die. But jet fuel and a nice place to sit where pilots can actually go in. Because us pilots, we fly around the rich people, we get treated like crap. So it's nice to have a place to actually sit and, you know, have a nice washroom and things like that. Because we basically, like the Formula One racer, for instance, I was just basically a limo, a flying limo, right? You land there, you sit in the helicopter for 6 hours, all of a sudden he calls you and say, can you be ready in 15 minutes? Now, do they pay you for that? Absolutely. But you're still a glorified taxi driver. So it would be nice to have, and I think a lot of these executive pilots would like to have a nice shack. And that's my ask this evening, is that you guys maybe go to the airport, see that shack, see how unsafe, my wife won't even go in there. So, but see what it's like. And even if you guys could get it to code or even to fire code to get it so that it's usable, then I would tell you that I will do all of my tours out of St. Stephen this year. But I need it to be, and it's the face of St. Stephen. You know what I mean? When they, it's the face of St. Andrews. Like, I can't believe you guys haven't called St. Andrews and said, hey, you know all these rich planes that are landing here and they got nothing to, you know. So, and I really, really think you guys should be pushing the RSC to take over at least part of the, I don't think it's fair that you guys get the whole bill on it. And I can, if you want, I can make a meeting with them and tell them what I've seen so far in the aircraft that have landed, and I can tell you it's not for St. Stephen's. So I just wanted to get you guys with a little premise of who we are, what we plan on doing, what our plans are. It's not going to be a multi-million-dollar business, unfortunately, but it will feed my addiction of flying. So I want to thank you so much for your time. If you guys have any other questions, the contact information is on those business cards, and I'm sure we'll have more meetings to be able to decide what we're going to do. Unfortunately, I'm under the 8 ball. If I build the helipad, I need to build it now. The hangar, I can wait till fall. I don't need a decision on that right now because I do have one, but I would like to start moving forward because fall will be here upon us before we know it. So I wish to thank you for your time, and I want to thank council and the mayor that we're able to use that airport and it's still in a semi-functional way. But yeah, if we could get those hangars fixed up and some of the stuff fixed up, that would be great.
So when you say an operator, what would the hours of an operator be?
Well, we start our chores. We don't have. We want to be conscientious of the neighbors too, because so we're not going to have any tours before probably 10:30 or 11. just so they can sleep in and stuff. And, well, we never fly at night unless it's an emergency. I'm legally allowed to, but we will never fly after dark unless it's an emergency. Oh, and the other thing I should say is my helicopter comes with a long line, so it can do fire suppression. It has the litter kit, so that means it can become an ambulance in a hurry. It takes me about 2.5 minutes to set it up that we can take the stretcher, and the stretcher's always with me. So if someone hurts themselves on Campobello or something, Campobello is 13 minutes from St. Stephen's. So,
Another question, or no, comment, actually. I already set up a meeting that you'll be hearing from the Regional Service Commission. There's going to be a meeting soon. And I don't know if I told you, but we have, St. Andrews has worked with us on this airport in the past. Like they split the study on us to lengthen the airport back. Oh my, yeah, we've been 3, so yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah, wow. Anyway, so yeah, so I think they're in the game for sure. They know the need of the airport. The regional is going to be a good sell, but I think if we help out and tie in Graham and Ann with that, and Campobello with what you just said, and the fire stuff and all that, yeah.
I can't guarantee anything with fire suppression, but that quad fire that was there, too bad. If we'd have got the call instantly, 2 quad, like that quad, 2 loads it'd have been over.
Well, timing, that's right, and you're close too. Yeah. No, appreciate you coming in, sir. Thank you, Ron. You can go. Man, $1,800 an hour. That'd be a quick flight for me. Yes, all right. Exciting stuff, though. Okay. So next we're into the community safety update. Do I need a mover and second to go into this? No, we're in committee. Okay, so anyway, I had the RCMP quarterly report. It's new and fresh. I just got it a few days ago. I haven't even reviewed the whole thing yet, but here it is. It's for you guys for review and the public. The other thing we got in the safety update is we had a fire at the landfill. Not a big fire, but the potential of a fire, and it was caused by a drone, actually, taking about flying. So what's we want to put out there is any electronic devices that are rechargeable or batteries or anything along those things, do not throw them, please do not throw them in your regular waste because they can cause these fires. I looked for our own site. There is a link here in the package as well, but our can and bottle depot takes all these things, the batteries and electronic devices and so on. So that's the one for our zone here. So just kind of please, if anyone asks, put the word out. And so our CHO is going to be airing this later on. So just please take note of electronic devices, because a fire up there is a cost to us all. If we lost our landfill, we'd have to transfer garbage to St. John, or any damage would ruin a cell, which causes repairs and all that, which causes more tax dollars, which raises tax rates. So let's please do our part. And yes, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councilor Harding.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have not a question, but a comment on this report. I went through it all 2 or 3 times, and I wrote down all the events and occurrences, I guess they're called, and it just happens that St. Stephen in the quarter has 860 occurrences. A couple of months ago, I said that we should probably go after the provincial government, or some government, maybe provincial, to get either other resources for the RCMP, which would be a couple of men or a couple of uniforms, or maybe some money, and I don't know how that would work. But I think that's just ridiculous when you have, Eastern Charlotte has 394. We have 860, and that doesn't include the rural areas. So I would say that probably the attic shelter is what is causing most of this damage to the RCMP. So I would think that we probably should ask somebody, the provincial government, for either more money to help look after these people or more uniforms on the ground. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Rodas?
The one thing too, I was wondering if we could ask our CMP to have is a scan unit presentation of some sort, because I just want to have a better understanding of how that process works. Like, it's not our CMP, but
Sorry, I just took, no, that's not our CMP looks after the scan, that's provincial.
just one more. But my question about that is, like, when I talk with our CMP sometimes, if it's unsightly, dangerous, if it's something that perhaps I know a citizen has made a bylaw complaint, then sometimes speaking with our CMP, they'll say, well, that's in SCAN's jurisdiction now. So I just want a better understanding of when it goes from basically the RCMP is kind of overseeing it and monitoring it, and then when SCAN steps in, are they actually also continuing to monitor the premises? Or are they expecting the RCMP to do that work for them, and then they are going through their own process? And how long does that take? Because we keep having fires at these, what are now deemed SCAN buildings, but it is such a cost to the taxpayers to have these like continuous fires and all these, and we just know it's coming, and I feel frustrated just waiting for it to come. Now, that fire that recently happened up on George, that was just like somebody just walked in, set it, and walked out. I've seen video footage of that, and I just find that frustrating, because if we know it's going to happen, then how can we work with our partners to try to get them involved earlier? You know, whether it's, because I think it's frustrating to the RCMP as well, you know, that we can't, it seems like there's a timeline for their process. But even if we could just lobby for a little bit of a quicker timeline for this unique situation that the data is demonstrating it's happened more than one time. We're on like 2-3 times, maybe going on 4.
Can I jump in and answer
Yep.
some of those questions? So, SCAN is not operated by the RCMP, nor is it operated by the municipality. It's operated by Safer Communities and neighbors. So it's the neighbors themselves that that start the process of SCAN. Mm-hmm. So and which has really heightened, like it's changed. There's times we were begging for SCAN, now it's happening. And a lot of those places that you mentioned were under the SCAN, and SCAN is being, they do, I believe, a 30-day surveillance after it's been reported, and they do it, not the RCMP. They have their own group of people. But it has grown. Like they're very reactive now. And some of the, not to get into details, but some of those places that you're talking about were under a SCAN, but probably under the surveillance time, right? And then we just have the one that was just emptied, and of course, yeah. So yes, so it's neighbors start the process. Yeah.
We can reach out to them and see what they have as far as public communication as to how their system works, how citizens can start that. Like, we know from experience how it works, but it is a mysterious kind of black box for most of the community. So to Councillor Rodas's original point is perhaps whether it's a committee of the whole or some other venue, we can inquire with SCAN about, with their public relations folks, about how we can bring some stuff in, some knowledge to ourselves and to the citizenry, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, just to add to that, myself and Deputy Mayor Wheaton did attend one there. They do presentations. They came in to talk to the neighborhood about the whole process. That was about 2 or 3 years ago, and that was before the one that burnt down on Union Street, right? So they came in and talked to the whole neighborhood, and there was a good attendance, probably about 100 people there or so. So they do that, and they do reach out to do those presentations.
I had one as well, provided to me. So does Jeff got, you don't mind if you set that up for a future meeting? Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, next up, Councillor Heislett. You get any updates on Conserve the Court?
No, I don't this month. We had our quarterly meeting last night that I was unable to attend, but I'll have some information for next month's Committee of the Whole.
And Councillors Rodas and Wheaton, do you have any healthcare updates?
We do.
All right, who's got the floor?
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. All right.
First, I just wanted to remind everybody about our incentive package that we have. And we have gotten some traffic on that. And before we go on, I want to remind everybody that it is not the municipality's responsibility to hire doctors, but everybody needs them, and we had to create something to attract them, and we did attract a few doctors, and of course we don't hire them, so then we have to refer them back to Horizon Health because they're the ones that have to look at it. However, having said that, we do have a new doctor coming in July. So, and Councillor Rodas and I have spoken to him, and he seems to be a very fitting doctor for our community. So we're working on making sure that we keep him here when he comes. And as of yesterday, when I was speaking to Horizon Health, he is going to begin in July. I don't know exactly when. And he's going to be located on the 3rd floor at the hospital, right? At the clinic. So I did ask how people would be able to get him, because now we have like 6,000 people in need of a doctor. And she said that he would get his roster from going to the New Brunswick Health Link, and people are already signed up on there, right? So, and I think last time we were looking at it, there was over 6,000 people signed up. So I don't know.
Or bad, but good.
Yeah, but I'm going to say, if you're not signed up, go online, and you can go to nbhealthlink.ca, and then it just works you through. You need your Medicare number and an email address. If you don't have an email address, you need to call 811, and they'll walk you through the process. And if you're worried that you're already on there and you're going to sign up again, don't worry. They do tell you you're already on there. So, and I was going to say, anybody out there, like if you're having a problem, call me. I'll help you through it, okay? And also, some of you may have known that Dr. Bone was at the clinic one day a week, and she said he's going to be done or no longer there, but they do have 3 more doctors coming in to fill that. So in order to get an appointment, you need to call them, okay? And they'll fill you in for an appointment. But please don't go to the hospital and hope that you'll get the new doctor, because, I mean, I can just see it, wax of people going.
Can you speak of the 3 doctors? Are they going to do the same amount of hours as Dr. Bone was, or are they going to do 3 days? Any chance of getting more hours? Sorry.
Okay, I was. Yes. So, and I'm not sure. I think it's going to be like Dr. Bone was only there 1 day a week, so possibly they'll be there 3 days a week. And to me, I think it's already crowded on the 3rd floor. So, we really need to get to work and try to get a clinic so that we can move everybody there. So, Councillor Rodas.
Yeah, I just have some follow-up. I have a bit of a timeline because I know that helps the public. So on May 21st, I had a meeting with Horizon, the leader of primary health, and Morgan Stevens, who's Zone 2 physician recruitment, as well as Jennifer Anderson Apape, who's the local clinic manager. The issue we're running into is that when we have doctors reach out to us, we don't necessarily understand whose role is what. So with the support of Mayor McCachran making that contact with Susan Neal and then her making the contact with Morgan Stevens, it's been helpful because Deputy Mayor Wheaton and I want to make sure that if we pass somebody on, they are being handled appropriately. The other thing is different doctors from different countries with different medical backgrounds and education can only qualify for certain licenses. So I just said to Horizon, it's very challenging for us because we could be talking to somebody via Zoom, we could be spending a lot of time with them, and then we could be consulting the Regional Service Commission about paying for them to come visit. But if they can only be an associate physician, that's not what we're looking for in our incentive. We're looking for physicians or nurse practitioners. Not to say the other parties aren't important, but it's not our number one priority right now because they can't actually operate under a certain license or billing code. So Morgan Stevens now has assured me that essentially, you know, we had somebody reach out from India even in the last couple weeks. I put it back on him to connect with the college, and then he is connected with Morgan, and now we have a bit more of a flow. So that's a big deal because there are a lot of players in physician recruitment. So beyond that, on the 22nd, I shared some temporary clinic space options with the local team. They're obviously outgrowing that floor at Charlotte County. I know Charlotte County could use that floor back, so it would be a dream to have a brand new, development of a full-blown clinic. But even if there's a temporary in between, they would benefit because they're already out of room, and if they've got 3 more plus Dr. Saber, it will be tight up there. And Jennifer Anderson did share this, I know it's challenging to get through on the phone line, but please do not show up to the 3rd floor. It's really just a charge station for the charge nurses is what it would have been before, so they're not set up with any kind of barrier. So, to go in and say, I want to see a doctor now, that would be very overwhelming for a new physician coming. So just try to go through the process and connect with us if you have any trouble. On the 28th, I connected with Megan Huckins. She's a former nurse practitioner who worked in Campobello for a long time and works at UMB teaching. So I talked with her about recruitment efforts for nurse practitioners because I looked at her incentive. I was getting some feedback about the nurse practitioner piece of the incentive. So I kind of wanted to pick her brain. The nurse practitioner grads just finished at UMBSJ. So our incentive is geared towards new grads. So I'm putting that out there. If you're a new grad, we'd love to hear from you. Next up, on June 2nd, I was told that there has been a new nurse practitioner hired at Charlotte County Hospital, which is great. But it was challenging to get that position filled. So that's one more reason why I do think we need to revisit the nurse practitioner piece, because they are so supportive to physicians. They can't do everything a physician can do, but they can do most of the things. So to have 2 nurse practitioners with a new doctor, it will help him as well. And then the most exciting is on June 7th, we are down to the wire because Dr. Saber is coming, end of June, actually landing in here. We have spent months trying to find a 4-bedroom rental, which is more challenging than you could think. But we finally found one, and between Deputy Mayor Wheaton and Charlene Hatt at the RSC, we have secured a home for Dr. Saber for July and August. So he is coming, he is staying. We are compensating that through the RSC. And that is so that we can just have him relax a little bit so he can get to know the community and look at homes in the area. And he has expressed that he has committed through Horizon for 3 years, but if he likes St. Stephen, when he comes in person, he'd like to speak with Jeff about the municipal incentive and may consider 5 years. So that's basically where we're at. That just got confirmed yesterday, so that's really exciting. But the biggest thing tonight, I guess, would be more of a conversation on, I think our goal as a municipality is not necessarily as much about, I think it's about time, like retention when it comes to time. Because 2 years, somebody can come, rent, leave. 3 years, you can do the same. 5 years, a little bit more challenging. You're connected to your patients, you're connected to community, you feel settled here. So what I'm proposing tonight that Deputy Mayor Wheaton and I talked about was just like the physician incentive is $25K a year for 5 years.
That's coming up.
So we'll adjust that later on. But we can chat about it further. But just to consider and really just focus on filling positions, because I was told we have enough empty patients for 5 physicians, but they don't advertise those positions. So, but I'm still putting it out there. We have enough for 5. And then nurse practitioners currently 2, so 1 is filled. So that's really where my mindset's at. We just need those positions filled, and then I think we can kind of back off on the incentive once we get that taken care of.
Great work, guys. No, I appreciate that, and thank you, Charlene, at the RSC, and thank you for you guys for proving that incentive too, because that's really fired things up. So Yeah, so, thank you. And it's good positive stuff there, too. And I understand the challenges, that, you land that dodge, and then all of a sudden you got to find a place for them to live, and then that's so difficult.
Well,
So
he's
there's,
been looking for, he said, over 6 months and couldn't find anything. He was going to commute from Fredericton every day.
good stuff. All right. So, your update. And, okay, now we're going into the what anyway. So now we're going into the recruitment, and, yeah, you might as well go right along. Go ahead. I should have just tied them together.
Okay, so we're right here on, are we right here on page 26?
That's the last page.
This is the last page.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we were considering would be something like 25,000 for 5-year commitment, 5,000 a year for a nurse practitioner, only for the 2 years. So really, for our budget, that would be a maximum of 10,000 for these 5 years each year, and then we just for those two. Like, I think if we can kind of adjust the policy in that way too, where we're just looking at filling the positions that Horizon has available, and once they're filled, there's really no need to like offer them to a ton of other nurse practitioners. But I would say if we could commit for 2 NPs, 5,000 for each of them over 5 years, and they have to live and work in St. Stephen, I do think, after speaking with Jennifer Anderson as well, that it would kind of, for new grads especially, get them really settled and integrated to the point where they're so comfortable and they have a whole team of support that they will stay. So I'd love to just have some feedback.
So right now it's 5, right?
Right now it's 5 a year for 2 years. But, 5 and then 6 months in, another 5 for a 2-year commitment. So I'm saying 5,000 a year for 5 years. Same thing where if they don't fulfill it, like obviously we've had conversations about if you don't fulfill it, you're not going to get the whole payout, but it would just be by a yearly basis.
On to the next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts around the table? Councillor Harding.
Thank you. I just want to step back, and I want to go to to Deputy Mayor Wheaton and get a couple of numbers here, because I've had people calling in the last, I'd say, couple of months for doctors. So what is the prime number that I'm going to tell them tomorrow when they call?
811. Right? Or they can go online, nbhealthlink.ca.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you.
Councillor Heislett?
Yeah, I appreciate all the work you two have done on that, and everybody that's chipped in, and this has been a long haul there for trying to get doctors in, and we don't want to struggle with this every 2 or 3 years, and I understand the thought process is there to get somebody settled in the community, and once you're here, keep them here. We don't want to be doing this every 2 or 3 years, and long term is what we want, and that's what we've had in this community is doctors that have worked above and beyond the years that they're supposed to work, actually, and never seem to retire. So I think that's a good addition to the policy that we have now, or the incentive policy. So yeah, I think we should move forward on that. It's my 2 cents worth.
This is referring back to the doctors and nurse practitioners that come. I think, too, we need to kind of hang on to them and, do things for them in the community. I think, back, doctor would come, you welcome them, and then we just kind of let them go, right? And especially if they're from a foreign country. And I've already reached out to the Multicultural Association. They're willing to help us out, and when they come, like introduce them to the school. Like this doctor has 4 children that will be in the school system, and bring them out to the community, because they don't always know what we have in the community. We have to make them like it being here, right? Showing them what a wonderful town we have, and have them stay.
Yeah, no, I'll just share something I learned in one of our meetings was that when these physicians come from other countries, they can't even borrow money in our country for 3 years. Was it 3 years? So they got to live in on their own means, and I just picture them just rolling in and going to work, right, and buying a house, but it's not that easy. So that's right. We can't just leave it even at the incentive. And I know the other thing we got to also. I mean, we got to look after our real roles so people want to live here as well. So we got to keep up on our municipality too. So they have the things to live, work, and play in our area. So thank you. Any more? Councillor Greenlaw?
So it's just for 2 nurse practitioners, or could it be for 4 or 6 or 8 or 10?
I think that's something we could discuss, but I just think right now you've just got a whole group of recent grads. If I were a new grad, $25K to put towards my student loan sounds really great, probably open to coming here. But this is more about not just recruitment, but retention. However, I did say to Horizon, like, if you could be more, firm on, or more concrete with us about just how many you're hiring. Like, it's also a little bit frustrating to not even be able to send a physician a link to a job with Horizon because they don't promote the physician ones, but the NP ones are posted online and they were not able to fill those for months. So I think if we just right now, if this is like high priority, more urgent, to just fill those 2. I mean, she's filled 1, which is great, but we could offer it to them too. And then maybe if that's written into our policy, that we are basically just looking at incentivizing for what Horizon has actually given us for positions right now. So they're only hiring 2 nurse practitioners. So of course it'd be lovely if more came, but that doesn't mean they're going to hire them, right?
But we don't know how many they're actually looking for.
2, just 2.
But yeah, but I don't want to cap this at 2. Like, I'm all for the incentive. I think it's great. But what I'm wondering is if all of a sudden, they go hire 2 more, and then they go hire 2 more, and instead of being committed for $25,000 for 5 years, we're in for $125,000 for 5 years because they've hired 5 of them. So it's just about understanding where our budget's going to go. So that's all I'm looking at, right? I just want to. Yeah.
I can see. I can see Jeff's wheels turning there. He could probably word. He's a master at words, so you could probably get us something to kind of contractual to keep us in line. Yeah, sure.
So it's the consensus I'm hearing is that the committee is open to recommending an amendment to council for approval at the next council meeting. I think perhaps the best direction that you can give to staff and to me specifically is maybe just to work with Councillor Rodas on drafting that amendment. We can take into consideration some of how to put guardrails around the budget stuff, and how to link it to whether it's link it to Horizon or there's another language. But we can do that over the next couple of weeks, and then and have something drafted, proposed amendment for council in a couple of weeks' time.
Councillor Hyslop.
Just when you were talking about, welcoming the newcomers into the community, we had that set up through Future St. Stephen at one time, like the welcome wagon. Maybe they can have they have a list of volunteers, so maybe we can have somebody's just, or a few people just focusing on physicians to kind of put them through those steps and show them the community, and because I know that they did that before and it was pretty successful. Anybody that's moved around me, and I just take them to the hockey games and took them to Tim Hortons, and they're still here. They were going to move back, and they decided to stay. So we look at that. I mean, look at our CAO. We came in and moved pumpkins here when he was here, and he stayed here too. So there you go. But that's what we have to do for sure.
All right.
Can I have one tiny more thing?
Yeah.
The other thing too, I just want the public to understand is Horizon is no longer not that they're not open to family physicians with family practices, but their whole model is changing. So I've had a lot of people say, can Dr. Saber be my doctor? So it's important to understand that Horizon is shifting towards, it's called a primary healthcare model, where you would be a patient of the St. Stephen Clinic, and then that way you are assigned to a doctor at all times. If the doctor wants to go on vacation with his family, he can. Then you have another covering physician. Over time, if you've been a patient for 10 years, you may have like more of a primary physician on that team and then kind of secondary who oversee you. But this way, it's more continuity. Like everyone's on the same electronic health record. You can walk in at any time. You're always going to have access. And then retiring doctors here, instead of having all these files at their house that just sit, they can actually participate and bring their patients to be rostered to the clinic. So if you were on with, you know, somebody who is slowly kind of minimizing their hours and retiring, they may say, I'm working out of that clinic now. You follow them, and then they retire, and you're not orphaned. So it's just important to understand that, because I've had a lot of questions. Get me on Dr. Saber's list. When you register for NB HealthLink, you will be on the Charlotte County Collaborative Wellness Centers list, and Dr. Saber will be the physician you'll be seeing, but potentially those other 3 that are coming in, you'll be seeing them too. So it's an adjustment, and it may take some time for people to get comfortable with that, but this will end the orphan patient issue and extend the continuity of care and the access and physician well-being, because we don't want our physicians getting sick and burnt out either. So he's not a family doctor.
Oh, sorry. So you may not have the answer to this question, because I've had this happen in the past. There is physicians that do not want to be in a clinic. They want to have their own practice. So they have to go out on their own and do that. Horizon won't work with them. Yeah.
So we had a really great meeting where they had, we attended a meeting with all the local physicians and nurse practitioners in St. Stephen, where Dr. Comstock went through the primary health models and how they pay physicians. So you can choose like salary-based or fee-for-service. So if you're the Proceeds, for instance, they're running a family clinic and they have a walk-in clinic, they can choose whatever model they want, like salary or fee-for-service. But if they are willing to participate in the collaborative healthcare clinic, they will offer you access to an entire allied health team. So if the Proceeds felt overburdened and wanted their patient to see a respiratory therapist for their breathing, that they could instead of a doctor, then if they participated in the clinic, they would have access to the respiratory therapist. Or if the person comes in, they're like, I need my disability paperwork filled out. Well, they would have access to the social worker at the allied health team to do the paperwork. So then, instead of all of our patients going to their doctor for like anything and everything, they could go to potentially physio for mobility or an occupational therapy for accessibility or things like that. But that just helps the doctors do doctor things only. And that includes RNs and LPNs. So yeah, that's their incentive for those.
I'd like to add to that too, that the electronic records would go to even the physicians that were separate, right? So if they were not available and you went to the clinic, they would still, they would have access to their, their records. So.
Oh, yeah, all right. Okay, thank you. That's a lot, but an important topic. Okay. So thank you, you guys and your team, and Jeff, when you guys get together. Appreciate it. Next up is the draft of the Downtown Facade Improvement Program. Exciting stuff again. Been waiting a long time for that one. Yes. All right. Who's gonna? Yeah, it's all you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So what you have before you tonight is admittedly a working draft that Mr. Henderson and his team at the RSC and I have been working on for a little while. As you indicated, the discussion of a facade improvement program has been around a long time. It used to live on the fringes of the BIA, but quite frankly, that wasn't the right place for it to try to live. It seemed like a good idea, I think, back in the day, but it's not really, if you look at the BIA, the act that governs the BIA, it's not really within their mandate. And when we talk to other communities that have been working on these types of programs, the ones that were handed over to the BIA struggled because the BIA just really didn't have the budgets to really run these programs. So what we've discovered and what we're proposing is that it be run from the municipal district itself. We've put in a number, a maximum value of $7,500 coming from the municipal district per project. We've also indicated some partnerships that are available with CBDC. Those conversations locally are still ongoing about how our programs could work together. So it's here tonight for the committee to discuss, if you wish, provide us an indication if this is a road that you want us to continue to walk down. If it is, my intention is to provide this formally. I mean, it'll be out in the public now, but formally provide this to the BIA for their review and commentary and questions from their membership, because this largely will apply to that zone. If there's clarifications that are required, things like that, to make sure the program's understandable and workable before we bring it back for an approval. But we've put a fair bit of work into trying to get something that we think we can manage, both within the budget and within administration, and that would address some of the key factors that are in our main core. So it's there for your discussion and questions.
Okay, I'm going to start. I noticed in here, and I know this, we don't have any bylaws for paint colors, but where we're incentivizing this, can we control the paint colors? And where I'm going with this is, I'd like to see I don't know what the right word, but different color storefronts, because it gives us depth and just, I mean, you've seen it, it just looks better. So can we control that, even though there's not a bylaw, but through the incentive process?
Two ways to do that. You will be getting a new zoning bylaw, and potentially with a downtown secondary plan in the very near future, which that would be the best. That would give it the most power, because that does make it a law. You could incentivize it through this in the early days, but if you really want to say this is what we definitely want, the way we do it would be through the zoning bylaw and the secondary plan. Much more teeth, much more applicability, and then that document's going to work in conjunction with this as far as getting people to hopefully incentivize people to upgrade their storefronts.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I would like to look into that. I mean, I don't want to control the colors, I give them the options or whatever, but I mean, they would probably want it as well, because it makes it attractive. It's not, I hate government laws, but you got your hand up? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Greenlaw.
Like, I noticed the language says any building within a downtown zone. So is it actually the BIA, is what the BIA area that this will apply to, or is it going to expand a little bit, or?
So we've been looking at, we've been working with a concept at this point that it would be the BIA area downtown, but we're looking at including the historic business area of Milltown, to try to rejuvenate that area as well. Something that Alex and I had a long conversation about. So we're looking at those key features. The other thing that we're doing that's a little different than most facade improvement programs is we're proposing that any waterfront property, the water side would also be eligible to improve the look from our neighbors in Calais, but also from along the walking trails, which is kind of usually it's always towards the main road. We would like to make the other side eligible as well. For that beautification point, as far as the trail and the looks from there as well. So we're doing a little stuff that's outside the box for facade improvements, but I think given the nature of our community, I think they're interesting attempts to do some different things.
Just on the budgeting, obviously what we would do is we would set 30 or 40 or 50,000 aside in the budget, and once if it's used, it's used, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Councilor Otis?
So how would it work? I know some of our downtown buildings, especially along the stretch near the border, like they're all the storefronts, I think, are rental storefronts, but the building has one owner. So in that case, would the landlord be able to apply for the $7,500 per each unit, or would it be the tenant would be applying for the funds with the landlord's permission? Well, I was looking, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, renters can apply with landlord permission. That's not a problem. As far as those large connected units, it's a good question. We may have to take that back to the drawing board and give it some thought, because there's in one sense, as I sit here just thinking off the top of my head, a good project on a product building like that would make a big impact really quickly, potentially. So we may want to have a subcategory within the incentive policy for those large-scale type approaches, maybe with a different dollar value, a different. So we can take that back. It's a good comment. We'll take it back and mull it over a little bit and see what the working group thinks. But I think it's a good connect. I think mostly we designed it as one property, but it's a good point.
Councilor Wright?
My thought just went on as this topic unfolded, is if you did it per address, then if the landlord or the tenant, if it ended up selling, so it's not the same owner of the building and that current owner didn't do anything, then if you did it per address, future owners could take advantage of it. The other thing is the current owner could develop just part of it or enhance just part of it. So if you just did it per address rather than per section of building owned by a person, it might simplify things. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as you just alluded to, Jeff, that would knock a lot of it right off. And that's what you see. I can remember when they were all blue. They're starting to break up. They are, but that's where I keep thinking the different colors would really knock that rid of the park. It would look nice. But so let's, Councilor Otis.
I'm just curious too. Have you ever seen facade improvement where some of those buildings that are lower can actually be modified to appear like they're taller, like the historic buildings, but they're not actually like built up?
It's a fake facade.
Go for it, Jeff. You got a good story to match that one.
Yeah.
I've talked about this one before. Facades that one of your hometowns.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if the downtown secondary plan and the zoning bylaws stuff are built such that that's an acceptable thing, you can very easily have false facades that extend height. Mayor indicated my time in Dawson City in the Yukon, half the buildings have false facades on the front, and it really is. And so yeah, I mean, something like that, I mean, as long as it met all the other bylaws that were in place, could qualify for this type of program without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I just want to when we talk about this topic, this happened many years ago. But for example, I don't want to pick on a bank, but I'm going to. But like, look where RBC is now. That used to be a 2 or 3 story building beside the town hall, which is very tall. But now look, that town hall sits there, all alone. But it had large buildings beside it. It should. I mean, again, you have to have government rules to start, bylaws and zoning. But if we had a requirement that, okay, you're going to put a bank there, there should have been upstairs even in the banks. And I don't know how security would work for that, but that should have happened. And the same thing when you go out the street, like that the height really does knock it out. Yeah. So it's something that's been something that's always bothered me too. Yeah, no, it was a Queen Theater, wasn't it? It was right beside the town hall. Yeah. Thanks. Good topic. Again, we're
Keep working.
Yeah.
Send this off to the BIA for some review.
Yeah, and send it to the BIA for some correspondence and review. Yeah, please. Yep. Great stuff. Okay, next is the the draft 2026 budget, public engagement and communication plan. Did I? Oh, why did I? Okay, yeah, all right. So closed and donation bin. We should just. It's in the package there. And what it is, do you want me to just talk about it? Or? Yeah. So what they're talking about is the donation bins throughout our area. Like there's some right here on the town property between Briggs and King Street Takeout. Kent had them, but they removed them probably for this reason. And what's that? And the Board Arena, are they still there? Yes. Okay. So what's going on is people are getting in them, already, getting the clothes or whatever, the goods they want, and then and also damaging them, getting inside them for shelter. Anyway, you guys have read the thing, and it is a concern. My only concern is we got to find a spot that they can go that can be supervised, because I mean the clothing bin has been a really good place to get your clothing to the diabetes and certain organizations. So we got to figure something out. But that would take a bylaw, because we can't tell Kent what to put in the parking lot unless there's a bylaw. So, anyone want to add anything to this? Councilor Rodas?
I think we should just remove them all, or suggest that people do. I mean, because we also have local options for people to donate at certain times, right? We have our own local vocational center. There's thrift store in St. George and other areas. And I think it's just like, I know it may not be convenient because maybe they're not offering the opportunity to drop off donations on Saturday night, but if our residents could just hold off and donate at the appropriate times, the vocational center is offering donations to be accepted, and we just remove all the bins. I mean, for me, I know that, Diabetes Canada and those organizations, but it's very similar to, Charlotte County Cancer versus, the Canadian Cancer Society. There is something different about things going to a local source, because then it's redistributed out into our community. And I've noticed the vocational center has been doing fantastic things, and they're constantly expanding. So I don't want to overwhelm them with donations either, but I would prefer to see just those bins removed, because they're an eyesore and they frustrate people, and it's just, yeah. I've actually spoken to some members within different communities who are also okay with that idea. Within the service delivery population of healthcare and social services, I think they also would very much consent to the idea of removing them, because people sometimes associate broken in bins with other social issues, and it just kind of continues that rhetoric. So if we can just remove that issue of exploded bins, I think that we would all benefit.
Councilor Harding?
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Rodas. I think they should be gone. I think it's sad that they have to go, but they do, because people can't be sleeping in them or whatever. So anyway, yes, I agree with you, Councillor. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor?
I know there's ones down by me in front of the garage there, Greenlaw's there too, and I've never seen an issue there. Yeah, they have them right there with the paper thing there too, they can get the flyers from. And I've never seen an issue, but I don't like to make a decision without hearing from the actual people that are putting those bins there and what it means to them, or what they have in plans, because they could have plans to I've seen some other retrofits on some of them that are not allowing people in them. I'd seen it over in Calais the other day, and so I'm not sure what their point of view would be on that, so I wouldn't want to make a decision on it. Wouldn't feel comfortable making a decision on it unless I heard what it means to with these other people that are putting them there, right? So.
No, you beat me to it. I would definitely would talk to the organizations that are providing the bins. Did I see a hand over here? Yeah, Councilor Wright?
I was basically going to go the same place Dave did, so we were on the same wavelength. And I've also seen there's one by Riverside Grocery. And I've actually, since I got the package, I've been kind of looking at them as I drove by, and I saw these ones up here being emptied today, presumably by the people who are licensed and authorized to empty them. And at least we hope so. I think it would take a really small person to be able to climb in there, because sometimes it's even hard to put your donation in, so I wonder how big of an issue it is, and if it was an issue mostly with the bins from one particular organization that maybe didn't have an adequate sized opening that would prevent that sort of thing. So definitely speaking with the stakeholders, as we're saying we're putting more emphasis on that, making sure that we're getting that engagement from all parties involved. I think that's very important. And then rather than just saying we don't have them, the letter mentions, is there a particular area they could go in and maybe make some modifications that prevent some nuisance issues. So definitely worthy of more discussion before we just make a decision, I think.
So we got some homework. Who's doing the homework? More homework? Go ahead.
Well, now that Councillor Wright's speaking to that, I think maybe the difference is those other locations are monitored by businesses that they happen to be close to. So maybe it's just a matter of modifying. The ones that are an issue are really in these open parking lots with no monitoring. So Kent's is way out by the road, the Border Arena. There's no like surveillance footage. So maybe it's just a matter of moving them to an area that just happens to be closer to a business that has some surveillance, because I agree with you, I've never seen issues with those ones. It's really the ones that are wide out in the open. So maybe that could just be a start on the adjustment, is having the ones from the Border Arena. But the issue I have sometimes with the ones that come and empty it is they're coming from the city to grab the items, but who's managing and monitoring it throughout the week? And so that's a tough thing, because we can't manage it throughout the week. But if it's broken into Monday and the guy's not coming till Friday and everything is strewn about in the parking lot, it does make it challenging for us, because I find that they're not local, right? But maybe it's just a matter of the problem ones, moving them to a place that just has more lighting, more surveillance, more, you know.
Yeah, I'm still not off the topic of just the vocational center doing it. I mean, they're a big contributor to the people in our area. And but again, we got to check the facts. We got to make sure they can handle it. Yeah. All right. So someone's got some homework to do, but who's doing the homework? That's what I want to know. Okay. No. Okay. It's okay. So Joyce is gonna. No, go ahead.
I was just going to make one more comment. There have been times when the vocational centers had more than it could handle. So then it becomes a point of then people have nowhere to put it until they put out the message that they can handle some capacity again. So this kind of helps alleviate some of that going in the landfill, because that's where I'd put mine if I couldn't donate it.
And yeah, so it definitely have to talk to all the parties involved, and maybe what they can't handle can go to the. Yeah, anyway, we got to ask some people the questions to do this stuff. All right. But again, what are we doing with this? Are we going to put this on staff?
I'll ask questions if somebody directs me who to ask. Absolutely.
Is that something that we should do as council, or is that a staff thing?
Staff will do up a report with some options. We at a previous department head meeting, we did discuss this matter before the letter came in. I think that was Celeste, put it on our agenda one day. And we have come up with some ideas about the ones on municipal property. Obviously, you can have those removed, whenever you direct us to do that. Ones on private property, we have no current regulations around that. We're starting to design some regulations, should you decide to do that, about moving them closer to the building. Because if they're up against the building, they're going to be closely monitored and more likely to be addressed quickly if there's a problem. So we've brainstormed a little bit around this topic. So I think we can do a little bit more work on that and bring forward probably next month or so, probably next committee of the whole, with some kind of something for you to actually look at and some policy options.
All right. Thank you, Jeff, and council. Okay, now we've got the draft 2026 budget, public engagement and communication plan. You sure can, sir. Go ahead.
So this is my first real stab at a communications plan that's required under your new public participation policy. As we indicated previously, this committee doesn't have the ability under our current policy to approve this plan. I did want to bring it forward for commentary about whether this format and the content, it matches what you believe the intent of the policy was. This plan in and of itself is, again, it's an initial draft. It's something that I've already started kind of prepping for. One of the challenges with this particular plan, I'll be totally upfront about, it involves public engagement during summer months, which is never ideal. Unfortunately, the government of New Brunswick requires our budget in November, and timelines are such that we could maybe push some of those in-person sessions into September, maybe October. We could move them into the fall a little bit more so that people might be more available. But we have a timeline that we do have to hit for legislatively, so it's we can play with it a little bit. But it's just here for commentary, feedback for us, as this is the first one that I've tried to put together. and yeah, just trying to see what you guys think.
Councilor Greenlaw.
So, looks good to start with. When we get feedback, I find sometimes everybody doesn't see all the feedback. So it'd be very nice to make sure that in here that any feedback that's given, it's itemized, and then it would be dismissed, or it would be integrated, or it would be, open for discussion type thing, right? So if there's any changes recommended, so that anybody that actually provided feedback would actually see their feedback was processed. And they would be able to say, okay, yep, they listened to it, they saw it, and yeah.
Yeah, when you reference the reporting and evaluation, the publish of what we heard document, that's the intent of that. It's the catch-all. It's the big whiteboard at the front of the room or whatever it is that all the ideas got written down on, and then with the column beside it of, was included in this budget line, was deferred to next year, was not approved for use, whatever. So that feedback loop is what that's intended to go with.
Yeah, just as long as it's not like an overarching summary. It's got to be detailed, yeah. Okay, good. Oh, and one more question, sorry. What's a community pop-up booth?
Actually, you're probably going to see it. You're probably going to see one popping up in the next little while around our branding strategy. Literally, we're looking at, putting somebody on the waterfront, probably a little booth. I've discussed different things about answer 3 or 4 questions about the community or the budget or whatever, and earn yourself a free ice cream sandwich, whatever it is. Just trying to get more to that grassroots, meeting people on the street, talking to them on a regular basis, and popping this up, whether it's during a festival or an event that Michelle's running, or whatever. Just, you might see us in the Superstore parking lot one day. Who knows? But that's the intent, is to meet people where they are instead of trying to make them come to a formal meeting upstairs or an online session. Is go where the people are and see if you can get 30 seconds of their time to talk to you.
Superstore lot would be a great spot.
Yeah, that's where I go, Superstore and the beer store. I talk to a lot of people. Yeah. I'm 2 hours I'm in there, but it's a lot better than I'm not going to say it, no fake book. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to make one comment on what we heard, kind of, I guess I'm the antithesis to yours, Wade. If you had 400 people, let's say, you got really great feedback and 400 people each submitted 2 ideas for the budget, you could have like what we heard of 800 where you got to put it in columns. Is it, you thinking actually that detailed, or?
What I've done during my time in Lake Ontario, we did it for strategic planning. And we actually did. We had a very large Excel sheet of every idea. Even if they were similarly worded, we might have grouped them, but each one was shown. So it's the best as we could in the words of the person that submitted it, so they might be able to go, that was me. And it was a 25-page appendix to our main strategic plan. But you could go through and you could find what you wrote and how it was either considered or rejected or whatever. So yeah, we do that. We build giant spreadsheets and try and track them all if at all possible.
Councillor Rodas?
I noticed here one of my favorite things that I think we're not great at, but I'm excited to be great at, is the "you said we did" highlights, because there are so many things, like even this conversation we're having right now is something that we said and is happening. And we've had that happen many, many times, but I think I have a lot of people that just can't keep up with the council meetings. They're out of the loop on kind of the week-to-week changes that are happening, but to be able to have a platform to actually share that back with community and say, these are all the things that were on the strategic plan and that have been accomplished, because there has been a significant amount that has been done. So that is my favorite part about this, because it not only addresses taking in community feedback, but also demonstrates, we heard you, right? So that's probably the thing I'm most excited for, and I'm just really pleased, and I think the pop-up pop-up idea is really great, because oftentimes people are busy, right? And they're out with their families, but even at the market, I mean, the market is just bumping every week. So even to have that, you know, once a month at the market gives people a chance to just stop by for a few minutes and kind of have their say. So I'm thankful that you prioritize this. I think it's great. And I also want to say that you heard us, which is also wonderful. So thanks, Jeff.
Just a quick comment. And you can also approach your counselors too.
Yes.
I've had that happen. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm stealing it. Well, I mean, I've had a few calls this week about other things, and it's very refreshing for people to call me up or send me a message on Facebook or Messenger or whatever else, and just ask me about it, and then not showing up or being on Facebook and being a big deal about it when it's just only a simple answer that they're satisfied with. And it kind of curtails a lot of criticism and whatever that is not needed, right? So just ask a counselor or just mention, say, what about this in the budget? And we can pass it on, right? So it's just as easy as that. So I just want to put that out there. Thanks.
No, you're right. But I was going to touch on that a little bit. Is you can't forget, you do elect counselors to do a role for you and get out in the public and talk to these people. If the road we're going down to, you just must not have counselors just have a little voting page and people just set the budget up and let the chaos begin. Hey, Brian. But anyway, yes, you still got a council role to do, and don't ever hesitate to reach out to a counselor and have dialogue. That dialogue's so important because it's back and forth. It works. Councilor Rodas.
Yeah, just to add on that too, I mean, I've seen a ton of things on Facebook over the past couple of weeks about the BIA. We literally can't answer your questions via Facebook, and there are minimal to zero emails being sent about it. So it is challenging, like out on social media platforms, something is this, big, really upsetting issue. My email is just so quiet, not a word. And so it's important that people go through the right platforms as well. I mean, even the RSC, when they were talking about, the changes with the BIA, they have a public participation platform. They have opportunities for you to come in, to vocalize those things. You have opportunities to email them, drop them a note. But if none of that happens, then the changes that you want to see just will not happen. And then it can't be put back on council if you don't use the appropriate platform. I find that to be just a massive challenge. Like the BIA has just been the topic of the week, but I have not received one email about it. Not one. So if you'd like your voice to be heard, just use the appropriate platform and we'll see what we can do.
No, that also happens in policing. People think they just put something out online and the police see it. Like it's, got to call them. I'm going to go ahead.
One final comment on the public participation. I know this one was particular to the budget that's before us tonight, and I guess I can speak even just to that. As much as we need and want and appreciate public feedback, there's going to come a time when councils and councilors just have to make a decision because not everybody is going to agree. One person might think this is great, another person might think that very same thing is not so great, and so then that's council's decision based on information that might even not be, each person might not have had that other perspective. So we do have to still say there's the role for the counselor, so reach out to the counselor as well.
That's why you need that dialogue, that back and forth, so they can hear your side and understand that budgetary item is not available here, and this is why we're doing this here, and this will help with that, and you have those conversations, right? Yeah, no, it's a road we got to get there, but we're getting there. So thank you, folks. All right. Next up is the proposed new communication officer position.
Again, this is just here for feedback and it's draft. It's again with the new public participation policy and our desire to, quite frankly, get better at our public engagement side of things. After much thought, I wanted to bring back the concept of creating someone whose job it is to handle these things and quarterback these things. It's one of these things where we have a desire to be better about our comms and keep our website better and improve it. But when everybody's doing it from the corner of their desk, honestly, nobody's doing it, and nobody's doing it well. So given the demand from the public for us to improve, given the demand, the requests of councils for us to get better at communications and public communications, I wanted to put this just in front of you for review and commentary, with the intention that it would be a budget 2026 item that I would be putting in for consideration. But if there's no interest, we'll drop it and we'll move on with other things. So it's here for discussion.
Councilor Greenlaw.
Yeah, my standpoint on this, I've been bugging for communications officers since day one. And I do think it will help. It'll help with the public relations. It'll help educate the public, and it will help everybody, the administration and councilors as well. So I'm for this, right? I'm not necessarily, stuck hard on, that it's got to be one person or whether we contract a firm. But I absolutely think we need this at this point in time to correct misinformation and to make sure that important information is out there in a timely way and as many types of media as we possibly can, and that our websites and our information is kept up to date and current. Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to add. Good. It is a big investment. There's organizations that have nothing but the best communicators going, and I'll pick on MB Power for example. No one likes what the communicator's still saying. Like, you got to still understand that the communications come, and this is what there is some due diligence going on. You just can't just not accept the communication. So I would really hate to invest $65,000 to $75,000 for a position, but I think we can use it in other avenues that communicates events and all that sort of thing. So there's some spin-offs, but I think we got to understand the cost and it doesn't just stop at one person. It's going to take some of Jeff's time, some of Celeste's time, some of our time, because a communicator can only communicate what they're told. So it's going to still be a team effort. So it's going to take time for people. But that's just a second. Councilor Wright.
I just wanted to clarify that with Jeff bringing to this was actually a strategic priority brought up by council in our strategic planning session. So this is not, just to clarify that it's not Jeff just saying I need another employee. This was council. Yeah, no, I know council knows that. I'm saying that for the public's benefit. This was a strategic priority of council. And the, maybe to your point, Mayor, the public engagement communications officer, marketing, not expert, I don't want to use that word, but to promote us as well, not just how we communicate and putting out information, but really being that marketing side of us as well, which again is largely communications. But it's just going to help, I think. It is another investment for sure, but yeah, I think it'll help us to be better.
Councilor Greenlaw?
Just to your point, I worked with communications officers a lot, and they've always saved me time. They've never really, and I know there's interactions you have to have with them, because they're like, how do you, what do you think about this? This is what I've drafted. But the work they do in the background, and once they get tuned in to all the issues and stuff, they're on stuff way ahead, and they save you a ton of time rather than cost you time. Yeah, so that's just my feelings on it. Yeah.
Good point. Yep. All right, so, sorry, Councilor Harding.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm all for this, but do you really think that this is going to help? Is this going to clarify the public? When on Facebook the other day, I saw a post that said someone got broken into, and they blamed the town for breaking into. My good God. I think it'll take a lot more than this $75,000 to change the attitude of the people in this town. I think it will come with the next election. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to defend our town here, Mark, or Councilor Harding. That's not a St. Stephen. It's everywhere. I mean, you hear it when we're in Fredericton talking to every mayor and councilor in the province, and it's Canada-wide, North America-wide. It's a social media world, and this is and we're all talking about this. We're all talking about adding this piece to our organizations. It's a shame that we have to do this, but because we could put the money into the other stuff that people are complaining about, the roads and anyway. But it's something that the public's needing. Go ahead, Jeff.
Will it solve all the problems? No. My goal is to reconnect the town hall and what we're doing with the citizenry itself. The early days of anybody who does this job is going to be tough to break through the ice wall that's out there. But it's one of these things where you get through to 3 or 4 or 5 people, and they go and they tell 3 or 4 or 5 people that, hey, listen, they're working with us, they're trying. And then when you get those, you always have the trolls on social media. But rather than us trying to shout down the trolls, when the community itself starts shouting down the trolls back, when providing factual information that they got through a good communications plan from us, that's where you start seeing that exponential growth in the trust level. I'll give you a preview of something you're going to see in a couple weeks. Our community safety and well-being plan or survey. Celeste and I had the benefit of reviewing the draft today, and in there, a couple of things that catches your eye. There is the perception that there's a lack of communication, which means either we're not communicating or we're not communicating the right ways. There's a distrust from what's going on in this building with the community. So we have to rebuild those trust links one way or another. And to go to Councillor Greenlaw's commentary about maybe using a firm, there's a distrust from outsiders. And so, if you could hire a firm from St. John to do your comms, but as soon as that's known, all those comms become less authentic, which is one of the reasons I said you're going to see pop-ups about the branding strategy, because the interviews that were done on the branding strategy, that was the feedback, was, oh, you're from outside, you don't understand us, you don't know. Well, that's why we're going back to the grassroots for a while to do some more consultation to make sure that that branding message is built here. Yes, we have outside expertise, doing a little crafting, but that messaging needs to be homegrown. And I think it's even more important for the communications, that the voice that comes out of town hall needs to be a local voice, needs to understand the local environment. Yeah, we can feed a consultant, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same authenticity. And I think that's why I'm proposing a position rather than a firm, because the citizens are telling us through other mechanisms they don't want to listen to consultants. They don't want to listen to outside firms. They want people from here that are involved and engaged. And that's so between the engagement officer and the engagement plans that we're putting together, teaming those up, hopefully, and some members of the public that are willing to give us a fighting chance to work with them. I think that's where we're going to gain our most ground the quickest.
I agree, because we're all going to lose in the end. We got to get through this. Councillor Rodas.
The other thing is, I've noticed we've already kind of taken an approach to having people like stick more in their niche or their lane, which is actually a really great thing for the community experience, because if Jeff is a, jack of all trades, master of none, because he is a CAO, but he's getting all this communication that's coming in that takes, time away from his position, it makes it challenging for him to do his job. So we saw how much things have improved even from Celeste's position, which we were like, do we want to do this? And then once we kind of ripped the Band-Aid and did it, we love it. She's over there watching, but we do, because it does, and it improves kind of the quality of the day-to-day work that Jeff and his team would be doing too. So it's always better, I think, to have somebody, in their niche and working in that one niche, because it just improves the community experience. And I think they could do a ton of things around like social media and the pop-ups. And I do like the fact that it would be, a position, because then even all the partners we have in community, and because we've amalgamated, we're going to have a lot of communication that's going to come over the next zillion years as MDSS, as we kind of expand everything we do out into the rural areas as well. So I think that that's important too, to have somebody who is specifically focused on, communication and integrating that feedback. But I'm all for it, 100%.
All right. So our next step with that is to give the nod, did you? Go to budget. Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Oh, that's the last one. All right. Next one, that pursuant to, I need a mover and seconder, that pursuant to Section 68, Bracket 1, the Local Governments Act, council moved to a closed session for the purpose of discussing one, negotiation of an agreement. So moved. Councilor Rodas, and seconded by Councilor Harding. Thank you, Council.